All right, moving along into the topic of push versus pull. It's very simple. There's a concept when it comes to pushing work to people versus pulling work. Think about it like this. When someone pulls work to themselves, it's on demand. When you push work to someone, you're thrusting it out of the system onto someone else, whether they have the capacity to do it or not. So a push system is what most organizations have today. We have a set of work and we push that work out to people. We assign work to people. Now, the challenge with assigning work to people is that we do a whole lot of processes around resource allocation, making sure that everyone has work to do. We tend to focus more on keeping people busy rather than keeping them busy on the right stuff. And that's a really important concept. If someone's doing something but it's not actually important, we tend to view that as success because at least that team member is doing something. But if they're doing something and it's the wrong something, that's not necessarily very good for the organization. It's also not efficient, certainly not effective. That's a waste of time, right? So we're spending money on things that aren't important. There might be a better use of that person's time. So that's what typically happens when we're pushing work onto people. We tend to go over their capacity. We tend to focus on just keeping them busy rather than keeping them working on the right stuff. Now, we wanted to flip that around in the world of Agile, and that's why we use what's called a pull system in some Agile confines. Not all, but some. Now, a pull system is much more efficient and much more effective for lots of reasons. The first thing is the way we implement the pull system is that instead of assigning work to people, we make a list of available work or make a list of prioritized work, important work, available to the people doing the work. So instead of assigning it to an individual, we say, here's a list of things that are prioritized by value of importance, importance to the customer, importance to the client. Make sure this is the most important stuff to work on. What happens next is the team pulls the work into their workflow, into their process when they have the available capacity to do the work. Now, the first thing that this causes is rigorous prioritization. We're always focusing on what's the most important thing to do rather than this person needs something to do, anything to do. So give him anything, right? Well, that's not our intent. So we go with the concept, the mindset. Here's the list of important stuff to work on, and therefore prioritization becomes much more important. The other thing that happens is that people can self-manage their capacity. This goes a little bit into that theory X versus theory Y mindset, right? So theory X, people need to be supervised and managed and babysat. But theory Y, people can manage their work without supervision. They know when to pull the work to themselves. So if you assume people want to do their job, simply allowing or putting together a list of available work, you can be rest assured someone will take from that list and start working on it when they have nothing to work on. So you no longer have to worry about keeping everyone busy because a team is self-organizing, self-regulated. Now that's going to sound crazy to a lot of companies. Like people who think theory X are going to say, you're crazy. How can you rely on people to do what they should do when you know people are inherently lazy? You see, that's theory X. You don't want to think like that. Instead, you want to think theory Y. We assume that people are adults. We assume that people want to do their jobs. They can work without supervision. And then you build trust and verify that process, and you entrust the team to do their jobs. And there's a lot more transparency in the process so that you can actually see when they're working. So instead of putting all kinds of governance and controls in place, making sure people do their jobs and running after them, we're just trying to get out of their way, verify that they actually know what is prioritized for them to do, and leave them alone. And that's another aspect of the process, transparency. Everything the team is working on, it needs to be visible, needs to be open. We need to be open and honest. We need to be open and honest about the good stuff and the bad stuff, right? Now, it takes some time for teams to get used to this, but it does need to start somewhere. Because the payoff when you finally get to optimizing this approach is huge. There's another benefit. If people feel they're not being told what to do and instead they can make decisions for themselves, you're empowering them. They're empowered to make decisions. They're more engaged, more accountable. They take ownership. If I volunteer something, I'm going to own that. That's better than being told what to do. Instead of me saying, all right, I'm going to take this, I'm going to make it mine, I'm going to do it. Which one's better, doing that or forcing people to do something or pushing work on people? So instead of pushing work on people, the mindset needs to be one of pulling. I hope this is clear. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in the world of Kanban, but for now, I just want you to get the overall concept. We're going to talk about Little's Law. In fact, Roy will talk about Little's Law when he comes in, and begin to think more about pull versus push. All right, let's move on.